Ladies and gentlemen, this is TVP World. You're watching another edition of Press Corner, where we round up some of the more interesting and most important headlines of the week with our fellow journalists, panelists, and experts, and we'll discuss these topics in depth. Now, here on Press Corner, we celebrate the privilege of a free press by having a diverse panel of opinions, and we'll let you be the judge. Now, without further ado, let's introduce our panelists today, starting from this side, Magdalena Marta-Baran, Editor-in-Chief of Liberty Magazine.
Hello, good morning.
And we have Małgorzata Zawadka, journalist and former Polish media correspondent in the United States. Welcome.
Hi, welcome.
And on this side, we have Piotr Drabik, a political reporter from FACT. Hello and welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Great. So without further ado, let's dive into the first topic at hand. We do know that Poland's taking over the EU presidency, and the focus is going to be on security, of course, supporting Ukraine, as well as EU competitiveness. A lot to get to in just 6 months of time. So let's first take a look at a report, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Let's go.
All eyes are on Warsaw as Poland begins its presidency of the Council of the European Union. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk came out on stage during the inauguration gala on Friday with the weight of responsibility on his shoulders.
Yes, there are great expectations in Europe for the Polish presidency, but today from here, from Warsaw, I would like to address this question to the whole of Europe, to all Europeans. Are you all ready to re-enter the European path of greatness, strength and sovereignty? Because Poland is ready.
Poland has taken over the presidency from Hungary, which has been going against the current in the EU, especially when it comes to supporting Ukraine in the war with Russia. A sense of relief can be felt among EU officials, with Warsaw taking charge.
In fact, there is no better time for Polish leadership in the European Union, because the vitality of Polish democracy and its sense of national identity make the European Union stronger.
The President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, stressed that aid for Ukraine will remain the focus of the European Union in the coming months.
That is why I have called for an informal meeting of the European leaders in the beginning of February, dedicated to the topic of defense. The Secretary General of NATO, and as you suggested, dear Donald, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom will join us for parts of that meeting.
Poland's slogan for the presidency is Security Europe. This can be broken down into 7 branches: defense, border protection, disinformation, economy, energy, agriculture and health. Out of these, defense and energy are expected to be the 2 focal points for Warsaw.
In terms of energy, I think it's important to really becoming independent from sources from third countries and diversify the energy mix in a way that it allows European Union and its members to feel safe about the level of energy which is provided on a daily basis.
The Council of the European Union is different from the European Council. The former gathers ministers from all 27 member states who decide the EU's foreign policies as well as adopt the bloc's budget and legislation. The European Council is made up of leaders of the EU countries, but it has no legislative power. It instead deals with sudden crises like the war in Ukraine or the COVID-19 pandemic. Poland is taking over the presidency of the Council of the European Union at a pivotal time for the fate of Ukraine. US President-elect Donald Trump, who will return to office on January 20th, said he wants to end the war in Ukraine in 2025, no matter what. Warsaw wants to make sure it will happen with Kyiv's and Europe's best interest guaranteed.
All right, EU presidency, a lot to get to, so let's start with the most important stuff. Gossip. Magdalena, so we do know that the Hungarian ambassador was actually barred from attending this gala taking place to celebrate the Polish taking over the presidency. Do you think this has more to do with the current diplomatic spat between Hungary and Poland, or does it have more to do with Hungary kind of going against the grain for such a long time within the European Union?
Gossiping. I know you love it. In this case, I think it's a part of a diplomatic, maybe not scandal, but difficult situation between Poland and Hungary after asylum from one of the Polish former vice ministers. It wasn't. The situation is difficult, and we had the representative of Hungary, but on the lower stage during the inauguration of the presidency. But gossiping, not having a Hungarian ambassador, but not having Polish president. That was interesting, especially that what he was doing. He go to ski.
All right, that is something rather interesting there. We'll have to, take it as what it is. And meanwhile, moving on to the actual, some of the policy positions, Małgorzata, we heard the Polish Prime Minister too saying that we need to do whatever we can so we don't pay the highest price. Now, this sounds like a call to action to me. What specific commitment or sacrifices do you think that the Prime Minister is alluding to when it comes to bolstering European defense?
Well, first of all, we should set a good example. So I have to go back to Andrzej Duda, our Polish president, not present at the opening, which is not a good example. Another not a good example is that we don't have the summit that we're supposed to have a summit, which was supposedly not happening because Donald Tusk did not want to the Andrzej Duda to be a person to be opening the summit. So I watching the all reports what's going on around the Polish presidency, I'm really saddened. It's just not because I don't think we could have a better stars, right? On one hand, we have a really greatly prepared premier who has such an experience in European Union. We've never had this situation. We have foreign minister who has such a good experience. He's like really probably one of the best prepared foreign ministers, with his advisor who is Anne Applebaum, like a great expert on foreign policy. And also we have President Duda, who is a personal friend of Donald Trump. So the stars are really there for Poland to take a lead. And we have problems on the line in Germany and France. They have the weak government, so they cannot take a lead. And now we have this presidency in European Union, and the world really needs a strong leaders. So I really applaud. I plead to Polish, presidents and prime minister, stop being ridiculous, because it is ridiculous. It is our security. It is a world security, and we do have all cards in our corner. So going back, because I was really appalled because we are supposed to set the example of being able to talk to each other, right? Because this is what is most important in Europe. European countries, we have to talk to each other in order to survive. Right. Putin, to survive artificial intelligence, and to survive climate changes. And we have to set the good example. So going back to what is the first, most important thing, of course, Ukraine. What to do with Ukraine, how the troops that will probably secure Ukrainian peace, whatever it will be, we have no idea, because Donald Trump, it's there to surprise everyone. So the situation is extremely difficult, extremely important, and also we have unbelievably good conditions that we could actually be finally have the role of the leader that Poland always dreamed about. And we really have the three politicians that when they stop playing, personal politics, maybe they could do something.
Right. It is probably high time to start putting partisan politics aside and start taking the leadership position. Now, speaking of talking to the other side of the aisle, Peter, can you help us understand whether or not Poland will be able to leverage this position and perhaps the president's close ties with Donald Trump to kind of navigate through this more uncertain time when it comes to transatlantic relations?
Maybe we will not have the EU summit in Poland in the beginning of February, but at the end of the April, we will have a Three Seas summit with, we hope, or we think that Donald Trump will attend with the meeting of the leaders from the Eastern European countries. And we see that for sure Andrzej Duda will be trying to position themselves as someone who keep the good relationship between the US and Europe. And we see that Donald Tusk also trying to take the position, I am the master of the Europe. So, Andrzej, maybe you will be, care about our relationship with US. But what is the problem? Problem is that we see now that the Andrzej Duda and also the Donald Tusk think about the personal relationship, We don't have the president at the inauguration gala of our EU presidency. So it's like showing some kind of like the diplomatic way. Okay, I am not, invited in this situation. Maybe this is not my, group to be here. And I feel much more comfortable maybe at the 20th of January, when the Donald Trump will inaugurate as a new US president, and we're trying to use this position for sure. And what is the most important challenge for now, that they say to not only to the Donald Trump, but to the Donald Trump people, Donald Trump administration, that US need to invest more in the Europe defense, because also it means the US defense. Mm-hmm. And US will be secure, and they don't need to spend too much money for the next steps in the Russian aggressive policy. And I also see very important role of the Radosław Sikorski because of personal relationship, as we know, but also with his experience with the relationship with US. But I think it will be more on the US-NATO relation than less than EU-US, because I see that Donald Trump more care about the relationship, if you talk about defense, with NATO. Mm-hmm. With EU, we see this discussion about the rising of the tariffs and so on, that Donald Trump see EU as some kind of competitor.
That's why we need to stay strong and really to persuade Trump that he also, it's in America's interest to have a strong Europe and to be able to have this, the transatlantic leadership for the democracy and the world that will be not the world that Vladimir Putin has in mind for the world.
Okay,
I'm sorry that I'm so angry.
That's why we are here.
Exactly.
Two things, if you don't mind. First, it's about Trump, of course. And I remember us talking several weeks ago that, it is our role also to show Trump that it is in his interest to support Ukraine and to let Ukraine to win the war. Why? Because he would be the first American president who, in fact, win with Russia, and it would be a historical event. Of course, I absolutely agree about Radosław Sikorski, but making a step back, there is a part of the idea of Polish presidency is to make Europe a partner for US, including in the case of defense. In many programs here, we talk a lot about two reports from the very last year. So the Draghi report, so the competitiveness of Europe, the Letta report, so the single market report, but there is a third one. The report written by a former Prime Minister of Finland, Niinistö, and this is a report called Safer Together. And in fact, a lot of events, a lot of priorities of Polish presidency was influenced by 80 recommendations that Niinistö gave in his report. And of course, a part of it, we have all those pillars, in fact, somehow written, described in the report, but we also have a new opening of European policy because Polish presidency is the first in the administration cycle. In the new administration cycle, so we will have an impact. And with France that is weak, Germany in crisis, we are able, we have all the cards to play a leading role. But, and here comes the great but, we need to cooperate. We need to cooperate, but also have in mind that the main rule of the presidency, one of the main rules of the presidency, it's not only putting new topics on the table, not only closing the old chapters, but also to talk, to mediate between European member states when it comes to the difficult topics. And if we are not able to be a mediator in our own country, if we are not able to talk here, we might have some problems in mediating in Europe, especially when we look at the impact that, for example, Elon Musk tries to have on Great Britain, but on Germany, on Alternative für Deutschland, probably some impact that far-right parties will have in Austria, even more stronger than right now. Just this morning, Austrian chancellor stepped down from the position, not being able to create a government.
And when you mentioned Elon Musk, exactly, because that's what Elon Musk is doing, trying to weaken European Union by showing that the right-wing parties are the right parties to take over each country, and the right-wing parties are against European Union. They want to pull out, right? So I was actually thinking that maybe this manifestation of our President Andrzej Duda to going skiing instead of going to the opening of Polish European Union presidency was to show Donald Trump that he's on a team of authoritarian countries who don't care about European Union because they want to have this bilateral relationship with Donald Trump. It actually did cross my mind, which is of course treason, because Andrzej Duda is not about. I mean, it's not about being on a team of Donald Trump. He's about being on a team of Poland, and Poland needs Europe. We cannot survive by ourselves, and this is like a really, really important thing. So, of course, and there is of course election, and Donald Tusk could have written the note inviting Andrzej Duda a little nicer, because it was like a
not just an official.
It was like really, it could be at least nice invitation. He could call. He could say, "I'm sorry that he was not here." Not like good luck and it's just
goodbye and good luck.
I mean, come on, this is like important stuff. It's not a play between two high school rivals, right? And even lower.
Really polite about high school.
Yes, I forgot how it's like the the elementary school and
primary.
So what I'm saying, it's really we should set a good example. And the first thing was not, of course, it was because we have this presidential election, and both gentlemen, prime minister and president, they are playing for their own parties. And I can understand why Donald Tusk needs the win of Mr. Trzaskowski, but I think that it could be achieved even with some, acknowledging that actual president still could have a good role to play, and trying to actually win him over, not trying to, step over him.
Can I have a one?
Yeah, please.
So, very important role of our presidency in the EU Council is that bring the situation when on the potential negotiation table about the peace on Ukraine, so-called peace, of course. It's bring to whole European Union as a one actor, because if Germany, French, I don't know, Italy, send our representative, maybe Poland, we will have the split opinions and split cause, of course, in this negotiation. So this is really big responsible of the Donald Tusk and whole Polish presidency. It's bring like the one thought, one task if we talk about the negotiation on Ukraine.
Yeah, if we would like to have a just peace, that we would. I hope that we will achieve, but we need just peace, but not the only possible peace. And if we will play as a whole, as one body, we can achieve much more in the way to justified or just post-war than in playing separately or playing with our national interest or playing like little boys from the kindergarten.
Right. It does seem like cohesiveness is
the lower
a very
of
big
the
stress
kindergarten?
Kindergarten. Nursery.
I meant nursery.
Wow. All right then. Like as I've mentioned, perhaps togetherness is how we're gonna see through this presidency, and we're only as strong as we are together and weak as we are apart. So very important stuff going forward. And like if you're a politician looking at this and you do agree that open dialogue is what we need, Press Corner. Call us. In the meantime, let's go to our next topic at hand. We're talking about Russian energy. Now, EU says that the end of Russian gas transit through Ukraine is unlikely to affect energy security. However, countries such as Slovakia, we see Austria, Hungary, Moldova, perhaps also facing down some energy issue as a potential impact. Let's first take a look at our report, and we'll see you on the other side.
For years, European countries have faced a critical question. How can they reduce or even eliminate the dependence on Russian hydrocarbons without causing irreparable damage to their own economies and energy infrastructure? Although many states have tried to diversify their energy sources, ranging from increased liquefied natural gas imports to establishing new pipeline routes, escaping the Russian gas nexus is proving far more complicated than anticipated. A power plant in Moldova's breakaway Transnistria region has had to switch from natural gas to coal due to a shutdown of gas supplies. However, such a transition carries both environmental and logistical challenges, reinforcing the need for a broader, long-term solution. Over the past several months, there have been increasing tensions involving gas transit routes through Ukraine, which finished with the end of 2024. A decision certainly unwelcomed by Slovakia's president, Robert Fico.
We are ready to take reciprocal measures, for example, in the form of stopping the supply of electricity to Ukraine.
Liquefied natural gas has long been touted as one of the primary alternatives to traditional pipeline imports from Russia. Theoretically, LNG can be shipped from a variety of regions, such as the United States, Qatar, or Australia. In practice, however, it means that even if a country in Europe does not purchase gas directly from Russia, it might still be buying molecules that originated there, simply rerouted through different pathways. Consequently, many EU member states remain effectively tethered to Russian hydrocarbons, even if indirectly.
So this time, let's start from this side, Mr. Drapik. Do you think that independence from Russian energy at this kind of pace is something achievable? And we're seeing some pushback from several countries that's still pretty much reliant. How do we convince them that perhaps these cheap gas is actually not so cheap?
We need to explain one thing. Robert Fico and other politicians which say that this is the bad decision for the European Union, they lie, because this is bad decision and this is bad information for Moscow, for Kremlin, for Russia economy, right? Mm-hmm. Because we talked in the previous minutes about the Poland and our position during our presidency. Poland could be a real energy hub for whole Eastern Europe countries. We can sell not only energy to the Ukraine, but also to the Slovakia, even to the Hungary, if they ask for, of course, about it. This is really complicated topic, but for example, in Hungary, we have the situation when the Orban government building with Russians the bigger energy power plant. Nuclear power, yes, a nuclear power plant in PEC. So we see that it's really hard to find the one position in whole EU countries, because of course we have the countries like Italy, which also say, okay, we can get like the cheap Russian gas. Of course, we see that the very bad aggressive policy, but at the same time, business as usual. So this is really big important role of Poland to show to the all European partners that we cannot do the business with Russian as a previous one. And also, by the way, in this material what we saw 2 minutes ago, we saw the one of the the part of the Robert Fico statement, which was as investigative journalist showed, that was recorded in the very, very expensive Moscow apartment, which was more than 5,000 euro per night, which is much more than Fico can earn by month as a Prime Minister of Slovakia, it shows, that Kremlin still have very big possibility of influence to the European politicians.
All right, it is something alarming indeed. Now, when it comes to Fico's dealing with Russia, Moscow, the Slovakian government has come out and say that the halt of the pipeline gas transit through Ukraine will actually cost them 220 million euro in transit alone. And a lot of people, the experts I've been speaking to, also told me that a lot of it is actually not really that Slovakia will run out of gas. It's more about this money and, of course, the internal kind of economic and political position. And with that in mind, do you think that there is some sort of political will in these countries to actually carry out energy independence, or do you think that the profit from these cheap Russian gas is just too attractive for their kind of own political gain to give up?
Well, whatever Slovakian people are saying, that they are ready. They protesting. They were like protest on Friday against Fico and whatever he was saying. So obviously, and of course, it depends of how much help they will get from Europe. Yeah. So this is the most important thing. So another, role for Poland to try to somehow make sure that they will not fall to Putin. Of course, everything that is happening right now with Ukraine, that it shut down the Russian transit of gas, it's good, and it's a big loss for Vladimir Putin. However, which I would like to point out here just for as a long term, it's also important because one of the reasons that Western Europe were trading with Russia was to keep Russia in check somehow, not to let it fall down to radicalism, right? So it's also, we need kind of a long-term strategy, what to do, not to make sure that Russia will suddenly become, a good traitor with the rest of the world, which is actually happening right now. So this is also like in the short term, of course, it's good. It's great that Europe will not be dependent on Russian gas, and it will not be a reason to blackmail European countries. However, we also need a clear strategy what to do to make sure that the other part of the world will not make Putin their, gas czar.
Yeah, I think you touched on many very important points here. We need to clip this part. But most importantly, you mentioned how much help Europe is willing to offer these countries as well. I think a lot of times the carrot and the stick approach is very important, right? We can wag our fingers at Slovakia all day and saying that you shouldn't deal with Russia, but if you just know a viable alternative when it comes to their economics, perhaps it is very less likely that they have the incentive and political will to carry it out. When it comes to the European countries helping out perhaps these countries to kind of soften the blow of independence from Russian energy, what do you think that we can realistically achieve?
Well, maybe one step back, because even to the previous topic, right. Because security of energy is one of the priorities of Polish presidency, yes. And it was described as independence from energy, from gas from Russia. And please have in mind that just 2 weeks ago, the embargo for LPG started to work. We had a transition period since December 2023, and when it comes to Poland, it is particularly important because Poland was buying just last year 45.8% of LPG gas from Russia. Then we had 22 from Norway, about 4 to 5% from US, from the Netherlands, from Holland, and from US. So and just imagine how big the market is. We bought 1.2 million tons of that gas last year. And then imagine that the embargo and the change have an impact on more than 8 million Polish users. Around 4.5 million of Polish households who use LPG gas for heating. Then we have 2.5 million of cars registered using LPG as a fuel. So we had to design the whole strategy here in Poland, how to deal with embargo and how to start to buy gas in Norway, and we'll buy more from Norway, more from US, so on, so on. This is it's a one thing. And when it comes to Slovakia, since you mentioned it, it's not that Ukraine just decided from one day to another, yeah, we'll stop.
Exactly.
They informed about it several times. We had a lot of time, Slovakia had a lot of time to prepare for that. And we also should remember that it's not the first time. But this time Ukraine decided to stop. But look at 2006. It was a so-called gas conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And for the first 3 days of 2006, between January the 1st and January the 4th, Russia stopped to deliver gas to European countries through Ukraine. And the very, very last thing now, I just read an article in Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung showing that in fact the gesture of Ukraine was somehow symbolic, and it stopped the absurdity of the situation. Because, okay, Russia was sending gas using the transfer to Ukraine. Russia earned money on that gas and then spent exactly the very same money to conduct war against Ukraine. So it was the highest time from logical but also ethical, I would say, point of view to stop this absurdity. And of course, we need a long-term strategy, but we had time, at least since 2006, when Putin started really openly to use gas and other natural resources, natural goods, as a political weapon.
Right, and speaking of using gas, natural resources as a political weapon and its hybrid warfare, this actually brings us to the last topic at hand, because recently we've also seen some provocative actions when it comes to the severing of cable data lines underwater, and Finland has responded exceptionally well. Let's take a look at our report, and we'll see you on the other side.
Finland's position on Europe's northeastern edge has long shaped its strategic culture. For decades, Finnish leaders have viewed Russia as an unpredictable neighbor, spurring robust defense strategies that go beyond traditional military force. Tensions in the Baltic region continue to run high amid suspicions of Russian interference. In turn, NATO has decided to boost its presence in the Baltic Sea after Estonia claimed that a subsea cable was damaged by Russia. Such incidents highlight the importance of safeguarding critical infrastructure, everything from energy pipelines to digital networks.
It's too soon to draw conclusions yet why this happened. We know who did it.
For Finland, proximity to these incidents further reinforces the need to remain vigilant. Although now a member of NATO itself, Finland's core approach to security was honed well before formal alliance structures came into play.
What I see is in hybrid attacks is that someday some country might be put in a position where they have to think whether they restrict individual rights of their own citizens to protect themselves.
Other Western nations face similar hybrid threats, but responses vary widely based on political will and available resources. Russia's hybrid warfare strategy poses a daunting challenge to Western security, but Finland's example demonstrates that it is possible to respond decisively and effectively.
Now, I actually had the pleasure to talk to General Ben Hodges, who's leading the U.S. troops here in Europe for a while, retired now, of course, and he said that Finland did the right thing, and because if nobody punches Russia in the nose, they're never going to stop. And with these provocative actions, like severing cable lines and these hybrid attacks, it does seem like Russia is the kind of provocateur that would just come very close to your face, scream really loud, pointing at you, borderline spitting on you, just one step short of actually throwing the punch. Do you think this is high time that the other European countries follow suit and start actually making sure that Russia do have to see some of the consequences when it comes to provocations made, be it like undersea cables, be it cyber attacks, be it these sort of disinformation campaign, Mr. Drapik?
So we see that now Russian authorities trying to concentrate on the escalation of the situation at the Baltic Sea region because, okay, let's see. Central Asia is basically more or less under political control of the Kremlin. Kazakhstan, maybe trying to oppose, but still is in really big influence of Moscow. Caucasian region, only Georgia was a country trying to really, of course we talk about the civil society and the former President Zurbarishvili trying to oppose to the Kremlin policy, and see now that the Moscow trying to completely change the situation and position of the countries at the, let's say, NATO lake, right? Because we see that the Baltic Sea have more influence if you talk about the NATO countries, and we will observe more that stuff. And what is really important that we need to stay united around that, because Finland and Norway have the very big border with the Russia. Even Sweden, with the country basically not have the border with the Russia, prepares society. You need to be prepared for the very big crisis, for the war, Even in Poland, we're now starting to think about it, yeah? So we need, unfortunately, we will observe more that stuff, more this, action like that. And Russia trying to, piece by piece, take the more control over the Baltic Sea. And which is basically not surprise, but we need to understand how important is it that the Putin policy now concentrate to the completely change the situation at the Baltic Sea. Of course, they concentrate on the invasion of Ukraine, but at the same time trying to hit let's say the most sensitive part of the NATO allies as a Baltic Sea or Baltic region.
Right. I think you brought up a good point that we will be observing more and more of it if no action is taken. And in fact, just before we started this conversation, there's actually reports of a ship near Norway kind of zigzagging in a very suspicious pattern. The ship's called Mulan. Well, take it as what you will. And so my question would be, Małgorzata, what is an appropriate response for example, this ship now conducting these actions that are, again, kind of suspicious?
I really don't know. I mean, we should set I know what should be done. NATO countries should say, okay, this is the red line, you cannot cross it. But we know we cannot say it with the president who will just be in the White House in 20 or 15 days. So probably I think that this is the moment of this gray few days that Putin is trying to provoke how far he can go with NATO countries and with America, because we all know that America do not want to send do not want to start, any kind of defense against European countries. And American soldiers will not go and defend Finland and Sweden and Poland. And I think we should finally realize that this is the reality. It's horrible, it's very unpleasant, but this is a reality. So again, with Donald Tusk and Donald Trump, we have two strong leaders. They should sit and really talk with the help of course, maybe I'm delusional, but this is the only chance. We should start talking like, what can we do? Because so far, when I also listen to various commentaries on the right and left, we don't want to see our soldiers put in danger, right? But we have the border with Russia, so we have to start talking seriously. How much we can act? What can we do? And we need to come up with some European forces that will say, okay, this is it, this is enough. This was an attack on NATO, right? And it's very hard. It's actually I don't know how to do it. That's
and the message is kind of very contradictory, right? We do want to have peace through strength, and I think even Donald Trump's position is to be strong enough that, well, we should be ready to use it so that we don't have to use it. But then again, like this whole messaging about we don't want troops on the ground perhaps actually gave Russia more space to maneuver. What's your take on it?
I just go back to my favorite war doctrine, so peace through strength. Not Reagan, not Trump, George Washington, many years ago.
But through strength,
but
right?
Through strength,
Not
exactly. But what we can see, we need to build a strategy of defense, strategy of security, long term. When it comes first to the ships, to whatever we observe at the Baltic Sea, we need to have in mind first that just few months ago, it became the border of Finland became a border of NATO. It already was the border of the European Union, and previously we had just European Union had just the kilometers, so many kilometers of border with Russia in Koleviec. Right now, those are thousands of borderline. So we need to I don't remember, just two or 3 months ago, we had that meeting of the ministries of Baltic countries to discuss how to build a security here. Next step, I believe, really important, is the upcoming meeting of the European leaders, plus the Prime Minister of the Great Britain, plus Mark Rutte, so the President of NATO. So we can assume that they will focus on the defense policy, and they will look for solutions, what to do, and how to work, how to cooperate with Trump first, and how to design a strategy in case of unpredictable Trump's behavior. We cannot have just one scenario saying, he is so predictable, because he's not. Even if we'll have Marco Rubio, even if we'll have Michael Waltz in the White House as his personal defense advisor, but we can expect unexpected, in fact, here. So here in Europe, and this is absolutely crucial, we must design our defense and security policy. We must cooperate, and I'm still waiting for Andrius Kubilius, so the Commissioner for Defense, to show his strategy he's supposed to show after the first 100 days of the new European Commission. And even the situation in which we have Kubilius, we have Hanna Virkkunen from Finland, and we have Kaja Kallas, so in fact Baltic countries on the eastern flank of defense of NATO and the European Union.
Right, and last but not least, we have a little bit of time left, Mr. Rapik. Are you optimistic about the possibility of having said contingency plan in case we have to react to several different scenarios?
So first of all, we have our presidency in the EU, so we have like the more efforts and more possibility to push this kind of agreement on, let's say, defense plan. We have secondly, we have a lot of Baltic Sea politicians like Kaja Kallas in the EU top positions, and also we see that without any response on any plans, Russia will push more this red line, push more, and one day we will wake up and see that, for example, Russia cut all connection lines, for example, at the Baltic Sea. So I am a little bit optimistic, but it's really hard, to predict how it could be, in the next week, because Russia still play as an escalation.
Right, so it does seem like having a coherent strategy and coming together is of utmost importance, as we can observe through the Polish presidency coming up. And with that, we conclude this edition of Press Corner. Guys, thank you so much for being here with us.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's as well. And you guys, thank you so much for watching this edition. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.